After his best friend is seriously injured during an attack, Star-Lord and his team cross space to find the key that will save him. Today we're going to recap the story of the movie Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, from 2023. When he was a cub, Rocket lived in a cage with other raccoons in a laboratory. One day, he was chosen to become a guinea pig for an experiment, and the sad memories of everything he had experienced never left him. Years have passed and Rocket is finally free. The animal is now part of a team of superheroes who together protect the galaxy from the most terrible threats. Since the events of Avengers Infinity War, where Thanos sacrificed Gamora to get the Soul Gem, Peter Quill has been drowning himself in drinks in an attempt to get over the elimination of his beloved. Now, his team lives at the base of nowhere and is trying to recover from the recent losses it has suffered. Kraken is one of their allies and trains his skills with the Yaka arrow. However, he is still unable to control this powerful weapon and accidentally ends up hitting Nebula. On the other hand, Cosmo, the space dog, possesses a great capacity for telekinesis and uses his powers to make fun of his friend, who is still unable to control a simple arrow. Suddenly, the base is invaded and the intruder tries to capture Rocket. Adam Warlock has been given the mission of taking the raccoon back to the laboratory where it was created, but the animal manages to escape from his arms and runs away while Nebula attacks the synthetic human. However, Adam is unharmed and returns the attack. Seeing his friend in danger, Groot decides to act and uses his roots to trap his adversary, but Adam manages to fly up and crush the creature's body while destroying a large part of the base. At the end of the battle, all that remains is Groot's head and, at that moment, Kraken sees an opportunity to use the Yaka arrow to eliminate the invader. However, his attack fails again. Adam then continues his mission and hits Rocket with a bolt of lightning. Mantis then has her arm broken trying to touch him and Drax punches the man. While Adam and Drax face off in a duel, Peter delivers a medical kit so that Mantis can fix his arm. She then tries to heal Rocket, but the raccoon's situation gets even worse. After taking numerous blows, Drax loses consciousness and Nebula takes the opportunity to attack him from behind, piercing his chest with a sword. While the team gathers around Rocket to try to help him, Adam takes the opportunity to flee, as he is seriously injured. The group then decides to take their friend to the ship and, just before he loses consciousness, the animal remembers the day he underwent his first surgery. After the operation, he was placed in a different cage, where he met 3 new creatures who had also been the victims of numerous experiments. At this point, Rocket was in pain and very scared, but Lila managed to help him calm down and clean the blood around his wound. After examining her friend, Nebula discovers that inside him there is a self-destruct device that is triggered every time someone tries to tamper with his organs, which includes the use of the medical kit. This device was installed while Rocket was the technological property of the High Evolutionary and, now that he has managed to locate the animal, the man has sent Adam to get it back. According to Nebula, there is a password that can prevent self-destruction and it can only be found in a company called OrgoCorp. Immediately, the alien finds the coordinates of the location and contacts an acquaintance so that she can help them get there. Meanwhile, on Counter-Earth, Adam arrives at the laboratory where he was created in. When he discovers that he was unable to carry out his mission, the High Evolutionary is furious. The man then attacks Adam and Paragon decides to interfere. To defend her son, she says that they will soon be able to capture the raccoon. After a few hours of travel, Peter and his team arrive at OrgoCorp's headquarters. After passing through the protective shields, the group is approached by the Ravagers. Peter despairs, believing that his ship's technology will be stolen, but soon discovers that Gamora was Nebula's secret contact and she is there to help them break in. That's Gamora from the past, who was never part of the Guardians of the Galaxy, so she has no ties to Peter. But he's still happy to see her. When Rocket was still a puppy, High Evolutionary realized that he was becoming much more intelligent than any of his other guinea pigs and decided to tell him about his project. His plan was to use a machine capable of causing organisms to evolve in order to create a perfect society, but the problem was that the specimens produced were becoming extremely violent. Rocket then pointed out a possible solution to this problem, which impressed the scientists, as no one had thought of it before. After putting on their OrgoCorp uniforms, Peter and his friends put on their spacesuits and open a hole in the wall of the orgoscope in order to break into the decompression chamber. At that moment, Administrator Quill detects the breach and asks the guards to investigate. Meanwhile, the invaders rush to take off their spacesuits and Mantis suggests that they hide their clothes in a trunk. When the security guards enter the decompression chamber, they find the group wearing Orgo Corp uniforms and come to the conclusion that it was all just a misunderstanding. As soon as they leave, Mantis realizes the mistake she's made, because the chest where her friends put their clothing was actually the contamination dump that expels all its contents into space when the door closes. Despite the setback, the team remains focused on their mission. While Gamora heads to the records room with Nebula and Peter to get the password, Mantis and Drax access the spaceport so that Groot can land and rescue them. Once there, Gamora captures the manager and orders Ura to show them the file with all the information about Rocket. After getting what they were looking for, an alarm goes off and the intruders are surrounded. To get rid of the guards, Gamora threatens to shoot Ura while Mantis and Drax attack their enemies. By touching the soldiers, the alien uses her powers of empathy to manipulate the emotions of her adversaries and turn them into harmless beings. After getting into an elevator with the manager, the trio arrives at the spaceport, where they meet the rest of the team. The moment Drax is attacked and seriously wounded, Mantis rushes to help him and they are both surrounded. Nebula runs to help her friends, but is also hit. Then Peter manages to trick Ura into helping him break into the system and gets rid of the guards. Soon afterwards, Groot appears and, after entering the spaceship, everyone manages to escape. Now that they have the files in their hands, the group can access Rocket's sad memories, but the password isn't there. Nebula says that the information was recently deleted by Thiel, who transferred it to the device attached to his head, and Gamora says that he is an observer of the High Evolutionary. Peter then orders Nebula to adjust the coordinates for Counter-Earth in order to find the man who experimented on his friend. In an attempt to find out where the group that invaded the Orgoscope is, Steamy captures a Ravager and his pet creature, both of whom were found in the vicinity of the headquarters shield. At that moment, Paragon orders Adam to interrogate him, but the young man uses an energy beam to eliminate the informant, which arouses his mother's anger. However, her fury subsides when she finds a communicator in the pocket and discovers that Gamora is on her way to Counter-Earth with the rest of the team. During the trip, Rocket's condition worsens even more and, even unconscious, he continues to have nightmares. This time, the raccoon remembers the day the High Evolutionary Project finally succeeded, thanks to the suggestions he gave the scientists. That night, the man managed to transform different species of animals into their most evolved stages without them becoming violent. Instead of feeling grateful for the help, the scientist was furious that Rocket was able to discover the solution to make his machine work. Because of his arrogance, the High Evolutionary couldn't accept that one of his creatures was more intelligent than himself. Now that his project was finished, he could create a new planet with a completely new society. However, in order to do this, the man wanted to get rid of all the guinea pigs from his previous experiments. Then, the High Evolutionary orders one of his assistants to perform surgery to extract Rocket's brain the next morning so that he can study it and eliminate the other guinea pigs. When he arrives on Counter-Earth, Peter realizes that the place is identical to his planet, but that it is located on the opposite side of the sun. There, the population is made up of various terrestrial animals at their highest stage of evolution, which makes them almost human. After Drax throws a ball at a child and accidentally injures her, the inhabitants revolt and start attacking the group. Then Groot turns into a giant monster and manages to drive them away. While the creatures flee in fright, Peter manages to get close to a woman and convinces her to help him save his friend. She then takes the invaders to her house and tells them where Thiel is. Immediately, Peter takes the car to get to the pyramid and asks Drax and Mantis to stay on the ship to keep an eye on Rocket. Meanwhile, Gamora is in the command room of the spaceship and wonders why everyone is willing to risk their lives for a raccoon. On the way to the pyramid, Peter is struck by how similar Counter-Earth is to his home planet, even in the bad parts. As they approach the facility, the Guardians are greeted by two frightening creatures who claim that the High Evolutionary is waiting for them. However, Nebula will have to wait outside the pyramid, as weapons are not allowed inside and her entire body was built to be a fighting machine. When he sees the High Evolutionary, Peter can only think of his friend's memories and remembers what happened the day Rocket managed to escape from the lab. The raccoon tells the other guinea pigs that they will all be eliminated the next morning and reveals that he has a plan to escape. He had hidden small pieces in his cage and, that night, he gets the last missing piece to create a key and unlock the door to his cell. He then frees Lila and promises that he will get his friends out of that place. As they hug for the first time, the High Evolutionary appears and shoots the Otter, who is eliminated immediately. At that moment, Rocket is overcome with rage and attacks the scientist, causing great damage to his face. 3 security guards then appear and shoot at the animal, but he uses the High Evolutionary weapon to eliminate them. However, when he looks back, the raccoon realizes that he is the only survivor. The other guinea pigs have also been hit. So he had to flee alone and stole a ship from the facility to escape. Worried about his friends, Drax decides to steal a motorcycle and go after them. Although she thinks it's a bad idea, Mantis accompanies him because she knows she won't be able to change his mind. Just then, the robot pig receives orders to invade the Guardian's ship and capture the raccoon. When she realizes the invasion, Gamora tries to intervene, but is brutally attacked by the creature. The pig then prepares to take Rocket to the pyramid, and when he is informed that the mission has been completed, the High Evolutionary begins the destruction of the planet he himself created. His plan was to build a perfect society, but gradually the population became corrupted. So he decided to destroy everything and start again from scratch somewhere else. Just then, the pyramid he's standing on starts to move and Nebula realizes that it's actually a spaceship. Just as the monster was about to leave, Gamora attacks it again and is hit a second time. However, Adam appears and manages to eliminate the pig. Although they both work for the High Evolutionary, the young man must fulfill his mission to capture Rocket to prevent his people from being destroyed. So he sets off in search of the raccoon, who has just been taken by Gamora. Suddenly, the planet begins to collapse and the population is destroyed. Immediately, Gamora gets back on the ship and Adam goes after his mother, hoping to save her. However, he doesn't make it in time and Paragon is eliminated seconds before her son can reach her. When she realizes what's happening, Nebula contacts Drax and asks him to come and get them, but soon discovers that her partner hasn't followed her orders to keep an eye on Rocket. Meanwhile, Gamora is trying to figure out how to pilot that ship and Groot launches a surprise attack on his enemies, as no one knew he was hiding several weapons inside his body. Before the enemy spaceship takes off, the trio outside manages to reach it. At that moment, Peter knocks Thiel down and Groot jumps in after them. Shortly before reaching the ground, the creature uses its roots to form wing-like structures and only Thiel is eliminated when he reaches the surface. Peter then removes the device attached to his head and they are both almost hit by the spaceship that Gamora is piloting. At that moment, Drax had to destroy a door in order to enter the enemy ship, because the trio was already starting to freeze. They accidentally find a warehouse full of children and Drax opens the cages, while Nebula tries to contact the rest of the team. After leaving the planet, Gamora and Peter team up to save Rocket. The raccoon is about to be eliminated when the couple manage to disable the self-destruct device and use the medical kit to cure him. After hugging his friend and celebrating the fact that he is still alive, Peter manages to get in touch with Nebula and discovers that they are on the enemy ship. Just then, the High Evolutionary appears and attacks the trio, then says that he will eliminate them all if Peter doesn't hand over the raccoon. The Guardian then decides to ask for Kraglin's help to save his friends. After being thrown into a prison, the trio are surprised by the arrival of the children, who start crying in despair at the sight of Nebula and Mantis arguing. Drax manages to calm them down and surprises his friends by showing that he is good with children. As he looks into space, the High Evolutionary realizes that he is about to be attacked by a gigantic skull-shaped aircraft, which is none other than the base of Nowhere. Immediately, he orders his pilot to fall back, but they can't avoid the attack. So they release the Spawn of Hell to eliminate their enemies. When he wakes up, Adam is strapped to a stretcher inside the Guardian's ship and the first creature he sees is Blurb. Meanwhile, Nowhere is attacked by demonic beings who manage to invade the skull and put the lives of all the inhabitants at risk. Finally, the High Evolutionary orders them to open the well to free the monsters and eliminate the prisoners once and for all. The trio were about to be devoured when Mantis decided to use her powers to manipulate the monsters' feelings and managed to calm them down. After breaking free, Adam attacks Peter's small ship and Gamora captures Blurb to prevent the Golden Man from attacking. At that moment, they have an accident and Peter manages to save his beloved before the ship explodes. Seeing his people under attack, Kraken feels helpless and decides to try using the Yaka arrow one more time. The man then concentrates and manages to get the weapon through his enemies' bodies. With Cosmo's help, he eliminates all the invaders and saves his people. When he realizes that his boss's obsession with the raccoon will cause the downfall of Orgo Corp, the High Evolutionary's allies decide to turn against him and try to take control of Eret. However, they end up being destroyed by their own leader. Just as Peter, Gamora and Rocket are preparing to board the ship and rescue their friends, the monsters appear under the command of Mantis. Now that the Guardians are reunited, Peter plans a way to get out of there, but Nebula says there are children inside who need to be saved. Determined to stop the High Evolutionary from claiming new victims, Rocket decides to go and save them, and his partners accompany him into battle. The group attacks the guards and eliminates all the monsters that were sent to prevent them from invading Eret. The plan now is to take the children to nowhere. While Groot is freeing the prisoners, Adam appears, but soon faints from the serious injuries he has suffered. In the control room, Nebula tries to steer the ship and brings it closer to the skull so that the crew can cross. When he wakes up, Adam wonders why he was saved by Groot, and Drax says that everyone deserves a second chance. While the children cross the bridge to reach nowhere, Nebula must abandon command and run for her life. Once everyone is safe, Peter realizes that Rocket has disappeared and goes after him. Before leaving, the Guardian finds a room full of animals, which would be used in future experiments by the High Evolutionary. Among them are countless raccoon cubs, and Rocket uses the key he built years ago to free them. As he watches all the other animals in their cages with sorrow, the Guardian is attacked by his greatest enemy. The scientist is furious at having lost everything while trying to capture his guinea pig and tries to destroy the animal, but Rocket manages to beat back the attack. After being shot, the High Evolutionary is struck by all the other Guardians of the Galaxy and has his abdomen pierced by Gamora. At that moment, she realizes that there is something wrong with the man's face and removes the mask he was wearing to hide his true face. Ever since he was attacked by Rocket several years ago, the scientist has had this bizarre appearance. After so long, the raccoon finally has the chance to destroy the man who eliminated his friends, but instead of doing that, he decides to save all the other animals who are in cages. While everyone is crossing, Cosmo uses his telekinesis to hold up the bridge connecting the two spaceships, but ends up fainting before Peter can cross. The man then jumps into space to try and save himself, but the debris prevents him from reaching nowhere and his body ends up frozen in space. Groot quickly tries to use his roots to save his friend, but they freeze before he can reach them. Suddenly, Adam appears and takes Peter to safety. Immediately, the team tries to revive him and everyone is relieved to discover that their friend is still alive. A few hours later, the Ravengers show up to pick up their partner and Gamora says goodbye to the Guardians before leaving. Once again, Peter's heart is broken when he has to say goodbye to his beloved, and, at that moment, he makes a decision that will change the future of his team forever. When everyone has gathered, Peter reveals that he plans to return to Earth and reunite with his grandfather, whom he hasn't seen since childhood. At the age of 8, Peter lost his mother and, that same day, he was taken from his planet. Since then, the man has been running away from his past and has now realized that he needs to learn to deal with it. When she hears this, Mantis feels encouraged to follow her own path and find out what she really wants to do in life. On the other hand, Nebula and Drax will remain in nowhere and intend to build a new society together with the creatures they rescued from the Eret. Before leaving, Peter says that the galaxy still needs the Guardians and hands over leadership to Rocket, who will now protect the universe alongside Groot and his new team. A few days later, Peter returns to the United States and pays a visit to his grandfather's house. When he sees him, Jason Quill immediately recognizes his grandson and is very happy to know that the young man is still alive. So what did you think of this movie? Leave it in the comments below. And if you like the video, like and subscribe for more movie recaps.